I used to think fear was loud, sirens, shouting, footsteps running toward you. In my country, fear is quiet. It's a door closing too carefully. It's a sentence that stops when someone walks by. It's the way you keep your eyes down even when you're alone, because you're never really alone. Every morning begins the same. A speaker somewhere in the distance crackles to life. A voice pours into the street like cold water. It doesn't matter what it says. It matters that it reaches everything. I wake up before my alarm. Not because I'm disciplined, because my body learned that being late is dangerous. I pull on my work clothes, folded the night before, same creases, same dust. I pat my pocket, my ID, hard plastic corners, like a second set of bones. I don't leave home without it, not even to buy noodles. In the stairwell, the air smells like coal smoke and cabbage that's been boiling too long. Faces pass me like shadows. No one stares. No one smiles. Smiles are for family. And even then, only sometimes. The neighborhood watch leader lives close. An older woman with a notebook and quiet shoes. She knows who slept where. She knows who visited. She knows what you whispered through a thin wall. Sometimes she knocks at night. Just checking. But we all hear the rest. I can make your life small. At work, the day is loud. Metal on metal. A fan that never quite works. Coughs people hide into their sleeves. You learn to talk with your eyes. A raised eyebrow means, don't say that here. In the middle of everything. There's always paperwork, stamps, signatures, little red marks that decide where your body is allowed to be. Because movement isn't just travel. Movement is permission. If you step on a train, there are checks, uniforms, questions, hands that don't shake. I saw it once. A man in the carriage ahead didn't have what they wanted. They didn't argue. They just took him off the train. And the train kept moving, like he never existed. That night, I dreamed of his empty seat. In the dream, it was mine. The decision to leave didn't come like a movie, no heroic music. It came in pieces. A friend who stopped showing up. A mother's hands that got thinner even when she said she was fine. And one small moment that broke something open. A mandatory meeting. My mouth moved. My voice said the right words. But inside my head I heard, if I stay, my life will be one long sentence written by someone else. That night, I didn't sleep. I listened to the building, to pipes, to footsteps, to the elevator grinding like an old jaw. I planned in silence, not with maps, with fears. What will get you reported? What will get someone else punished? What looks normal in a pocket? I couldn't tell my mother. Because love has consequences here. If you fall, you don't only fall alone. So I split my life into compartments. In one, I was obedient. In the other, I hid a tiny bundle under a loose floorboard. A change of socks, a little dried food, a small photo with no names. And my ID. The thing that keeps you in place. For weeks, I acted normal. Normal means invisible. Normal means you complain about the weather and never about anything else. Then came the day I chose. A gray morning. The sky looked like dirty cloth. I told my mother I had to travel for work. I hated myself for the lie. But I hated what the truth could do to her even more. She nodded like she believed me. Or maybe she nodded because believing is what mothers do when there's nothing else to hold. At the station, the air was sharp. Diesel, sweat, nervous breath. I kept my shoulders loose. I tried to wear boredom like a mask, like I had nothing to hide. On the platform, men in uniform walked slowly, checking papers. When they reached me, my hand found the plastic in my pocket. He looked at it, looked at my face, looked at it again. For a second, the whole station inhaled. Then a stamp hit paper. A dull thud. He handed it back as if he'd never held my future. I got on the train. The carriage smelled like damp coats and old rice. People sat with their bags on their knees, arms wrapped around them like children. Outside, the countryside slid past. Fields. Low hills. And once, a river flashing silver in the distance. I tried not to stare. I tried not to think. That is water. And water can be a border. At the next stop, I switched to a bus. Older. Rattling. Windows scratched like cloudy glass. At checkpoints, the bus slowed. A barrier. A look inside. Every time my body tightened like a fist closing. By late afternoon, I was on foot. The road narrowed into dirt. The air changed. Less smoke, more wet earth, more pine. Somewhere, a dog barked. Once. Then again. Night came fast. At night, you can hear the state. A truck far away, boots on gravel, a whistle that cuts the air and makes your bones listen. I reached a place where the trees thinned. Beyond them, open ground. And beyond that, a faint line of lights. Not street lights. Hard lights. Like eyes that don't blink. I stayed low. Not like a hero. Like an animal that learned the rules. The river was there. Dark. Wider than it looked in the day. It smelled like mud and cold metal. Across it, lights moved. I couldn't tell if they were cars or flashlights or something worse. My hands shook. Not from the cold. From the thought that this was the line. If I step back, I'm still who I was. If I step forward, I become someone hunted. Behind me, a twig snapped. My heart kicked. I turned. A figure, small. A teenager maybe, eyes wide like mine. He whispered a name, not mine. Someone he thought I was, someone he needed. In that second, I understood the cruelest rule. If I help him, I may be his hope, and he may be my end. He took one step toward me. I raised my hand. Stop. Not a word, just a gesture. His face collapsed. Not angry, just empty. He backed away into the dark, and I hated myself for being alive. A dog barked again, closer. A light swept the far shore. I froze. The beam moved on. Then, another sound. A low crackle. A distant loudspeaker. Even here. Even at the edge. It wasn't the words, it was the reminder. We can still reach you. I stepped into the water. Cold slammed up my legs. It stole my breath. I gripped the mud under my feet and kept moving. Halfway across, something splashed behind me. I didn't look. A shout carried across the water. Not clear, meant to be fear. I pushed forward. My clothes grew heavy. My fingers went numb. The far bank rose like a wall. I grabbed at reeds, pulled myself into the mud. And then, silence. Not safe silence. The kind that waits. I lay there, shaking, face pressed into wet earth, listening for footsteps. None came. Time became useless. Eventually, I crawled into the trees. Farther from the water, farther from the lights. In the distance, a train horn sounded. A normal sound, in a world that wasn't mine. I kept moving until my legs stopped obeying. I found a shed. Empty. Smelling of oil and old wood. I curled into the corner like a question mark. And for the first time that night, I cried without noise. After that, life blurred. Not like an adventure, like survival. Different streets, different faces. A language on signs I couldn't read. Every uniform made my stomach turn to stone. Because I knew what forced returns meant. Everyone near the border grows up with stories, not details, warnings. If you go back, you may vanish. So even when I reached a place where people didn't know my name, I still moved like someone watched. Later, much later, I stood in a room with real heat. Real light. Someone asked me, "You're safe now. How do you feel?" I opened my mouth. Nothing came out. Because safe is a word that doesn't fit in my body anymore. I learned to sleep again. But never deeply. I learned to laugh again. But my eyes stayed careful. And sometimes, when a speaker crackles in a store or a train brakes too hard or someone knocks twice at night, I'm back in that stairwell, patting my pocket, feeling the hard plastic corners of my ID like bones. I escaped. That's what people say. But some nights I wonder if the real escape would be waking up and not scanning every shadow for the country I left behind. Because the border was a river. But the fear, was something I carried across.